Hi everyone. I'm Erling Linde from Flowcase, and I will be your host today on this webinar called "From Chaos to Clarity." Um, I'm very happy to be joined today by Leonie Thomas, a senior bid writer, strategic advisor, and thought leader. Welcome, Leonie.
Oh, thank you very much, Erling. It's really great to be here. I'm so excited about talking about this with you. I know we've been talking about it and prepping it for quite a while, but so many of us in bid world experience like quite severe chaos, that scramble for content, all the late nights, harassing people to engage with the process. But genuinely, I don't really think it needs to be that way. And I think there's two reasons at the moment why chaos is not desirable at all. I think firstly, it's keeping really great bid writers stuck in tactical mode rather than working more strategically so that they're focused on maximizing their impact. But then secondly, because AI is going to make such a massive impact over the next couple of years, I think we've got a huge opportunity as a bid profession to maximize the value and the impact of AI to minimize the chaos rather than using AI to actually do chaotic things even quicker. So it's for us really to start making some changes now, and I think it's a great opportunity too.
I definitely I agree that this is a good catalyst and a good opportunity to change things and yeah, use it as a way to learn and improve. I as we will be doing this covering these topics today, we'll also be running some polls, live polls in the background here. So as you see them popping up, feel free to complete these polls, and I will bring up the stats as they come in. But Leonie, let's start with this chaos you mentioned. How does that look like? How does chaos look like in a big team?
Yeah, I think chaos in bid world, it kind of shows up everywhere, but I think what underpins it really is a lack of process and a lack of understanding the proper roles and responsibilities of people involved. But it manifests primarily through things like lack of qualification, so kind of bidding for everything, a lack of proper process, or where we've got process but we're not properly managing it, or having really unclear roles and responsibilities across the team. So who's doing what? Do they know what they're supposed to be doing? Do things kind of fall between two stools? That can happen. A lack of proper input from SMEs, or really struggling for proper engagement because people are busy or they don't know the importance, or we've got fragmented input from contributors, so all different bits. We need to find a theme between it all. Maybe there's no clear win themes, maybe there's no strategy, maybe we've just not thought about that. And then also, we're kind of doing all of this work within an environment that's very, very deadline driven. Those deadlines don't move really, so it's highly pressurized, isn't it? I think there's a lot of firefighting, and that chaos, that firefighting, that stress, it's keeping us bid writers and bid people in general really just kind of working in a really reactive, tactical way, rather than kind of moving into that strategic role of being work winning partners. And I think, like I said at the beginning, I think it's a huge opportunity for us to be doing that really as a cohort.
That sounds stressful, and it's I guess it's something, as a software provider, something we've heard when we've attended bid conferences. Like definitely a theme that I recognize for speaking to people working in the bid industry, and I think also, it was also very clear to us, like from day one when we started building our software, that
Mhm.
this has to work also at like 11:59 on a Wednesday night. It can't ever go down. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
so there's that pressure comes. It does trickle down to us every now and then as well. But I really
Good.
respect
At
the
least you
work you're
can
doing. Yeah,
empathize. You can
exactly,
empathize with the strain. Yeah.
exactly. Um, but what do you think is is kind of the causes then behind the root causes behind this chaos? Yeah.
I I think there multiple. I think there's lots of them, but I think there's some key ones that I think a lot of people can sort of relate to. I think there's a lack of planning, a lack of like pre-bid thinking, so that shifting left of um, work winning activity really. It gets left too late, it's not really properly considered. Bids drop out of the sky with no warning. All of that can really contribute. We've got a lack of collaboration, so I think that's a lack of mindset, behaviors, values, understanding, going into bidding processes with the right kind of ethos in the mind. So, how do we collaborate along, across teams rather than just blaming SMEs or various people for not engaging properly? How can we, as bid professionals, actually turn up with a more collaborative mindset ourselves? So that, there's one thing. I think templating, I think boilerplate approaches, not having the right content to fill the gaps at the appropriate time. I think that's often created a lot of strain because we're copying and pasting stuff that's maybe not a great fit for what we're trying to do. Um, and then obviously, we've got a lot of different tools, haven't we? You and I have been talking about tech today. So many different ways of doing things now. Have you got a tech stack that really fits together, and are there improvements around that you could make? Timescales, we're never ever going to beat the deadline, are we? So I think we have to just work smarter within the time that we've got. Understanding roles and responsibilities. I know we've mentioned that a few times, but having proper defined work streams that people look after, and everybody knows that they look after that, and kind of sticking to that as well. And then really embedding process, culture, strategy. All of these things are so critical, and will help you to try and solve those root causes of chaos. Because when you combine a couple of those elements, you've got mayhem on your hands, and it's very difficult to work like that, I think.
And I can see see also that chasing SMEs for content and having disjointed tools and version control is something that resonates with the audience here in the polls. So definitely some recognition there. And yeah, obviously what we've been seeing from the Flowcase perspective as well is like when you need the content, it should ideally be there. It's not like it would be nice if you didn't have to then chase it down and reinvent it every time. It would be nice if the data is kind of up to date and ready. And yeah, we often see people like we on the resume side, which is what we focus on when
Yeah,
what people like we see like there's hundreds of resumes, everyone in 7 different versions and 3
yeah.
different templates or more than that in some folder somewhere if you're lucky. So that's kind of what we're trying to replace, but definitely something that we see people are
CVs,
facing.
yeah, CVs have been the bane of my life as well. But we're in a place at the moment, I think, with like bid people, we can really make big changes about how we do it. So, rather than feeling victimized, think about how we can create improvements.
So how do we move on from this chaos then to a bit more control?
Yeah, how do we? So for me, and I think we've alluded to this quite a bit, it's about creating clarity, and clarity for me is where people meet the process. So how can we get people doing the right things at the right time? And that's it really. So you create the right structure through people and process, and the right relationships as well. So I know that SMEs, I think they're unfairly criticized a lot, but part of the way of solving that with them is creating the right relationships with them. And the better we know people, the better we get along with people, the better that, the more respect you have within that relationship, I think the easier it is to surface great content. So like I would really recommend to people when you're working on bids to really get to know your SMEs well, within the context of the bid, so that you can um, start to move towards that better place where we all want to be. But I also, as a writer, when I'm working on stuff, there's four things that I want to kind of do and think about when I'm developing responses. I think about like what are we trying to say? What's our story here? What's going to matter to the buyer? You know, and I have to do the research behind that. And then I look at what's already working within the context of this particular set of responses. So, have we got any past feedback that the client can share with me? Have we got any kind of background information? And then you know, I want to build from strengths. So I never discount, although I'm always writing from scratch, I never discount previous responses as a bid writer. I want to use that as source information. I think about who I need input from. So who are my contributors? Who are my subject matter experts on any particular response that I'm doing? How do I brief them? So how do I approach them? I need to make sure in order to get the right information from them that I'm giving them the right set of instructions. To be um, People love clarity, don't they? So if you're approaching somebody to do something, if you can give them a really clear set of instructions, can you read this? I need an answer to that. And then as well, if you're able to just kind of call them and talk them through it, I think they love that even more. So I've got a number of calls tomorrow in the diary where um, I'm bottoming out quite complex technical responses. And rather than giving the SMEs that work to do, I will talk them through it on the phone. So that's what I'm going to be talking about with them. But I'm also going to be talking about the fourth point here, which is what the structure is. So what's the structure that I need for this response, and what's my approach going to be for managing this response to its end point, which is kind of like reviews and getting it closed out. I think about all of that in advance. Like I don't turn up to a meeting with an SME unprepared. I know exactly what I need to get from them, and I know what that whole process is going to look like from storyboard to submission. So I'm thinking about that all the time. I'm just kind of organized really, and I think if you have a bit of organization and a bit of preparation, you start to move to clarity from that chaos, like move yourself out of chaos.
Just a question, like, so who are these SMEs? So imagine like you come into a new company and helping them with a bid. Are they easy to find, or do you have to kind of, how do you know who's the right?
Yeah, well, no, people will put me in touch. So
Mm.
this week, for example, I'm working on a big aviation project, and I'm also working on a big civil engineering scheme as well. So two different bids, two separate sets of highly technical, very experienced subject matter experts. I've had to understand what I need to speak to them about. I've had to do all that prep, and I've got those meetings in the diary, and I've got those meetings all kind of organized for tomorrow, where I
Mm.
know exactly what I need to speak to them about. I've highlighted it all, and I will take them through that information capture session. Really, I'm going to validate the response structure. I'm going to validate an initial draft that I've put together, and I'm going to ask them like very specific questions so that I capture the information that I need. It helps to move them along the process, and it keeps ownership of the writing with me rather than giving SMEs something that they typically don't enjoy doing, and it keeps us on track as well. So, and I never have to chase because I've already got the information.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's my top
Yeah,
tip. Never
yeah.
chase.
Thanks. Well, that's noted. Yeah, I see some mixed results in the polls here in terms of whether uh, people always have a clear bid strategy. Some always do that, and some sometimes do that. So it's a bit of a mix there. But in terms of beyond the strategies, you started kind of touching a bit on it, but like, what are some practical things we can do, or to
So this will get mixed reviews from people, but like one of my suggestions is always to write the exec summary first. It'll be a really rough draft initially, and it'll be something that you iterate throughout the process. but it should serve as a kind of talisman really for the rest of the team, because it'll have all your win themes in it. It'll have, you know, the key parts of your proposal really, like what the story is. So that's like my first thing. That some people prefer to write it last. I think if you can't write an exec summary from very early stages, then you probably shouldn't be bidding, because you're not able to articulate like what you're selling. But that, you know, that's just my opinion. Some of the things is like fully understand your question. So like I've spent a long time doing that today. Um, you know, you know, one part of the conversation that I'll be having with SMEs tomorrow is, this is my understanding of the question. Are you in agreement with it? And then we'll bottom out any disagreements or any kind of differences in interpretation. Like, it's, you know, you need to kind of understand that. But make sure that your SMEs, your contributors, any other senior stakeholders fully understand that question and you're all in agreement with it. Because there is nothing worse than getting to like red review or like a review just before submission, and somebody says out of the blue, well, I don't think it means that, or have you thought about this, or I'm interpreting that different. You know, it's really difficult to manage those sorts of conversations at that stage in the process. So try and bottom that out earlier on. I use a framework called the 6W framework to really unpack SME input. And by the 6W, I kind of call it like, it's the who, it's the what, it's the where, it's the when, it's the how, and it's the why. So those 6 questions help you unpick and unpack any input from any SME. Like, they're the 6 things that you need to know about anything that they're telling you. So don't just ask them for text like we've talked about before. Guide them to giving you exactly what you need, and take the notes on the screen while you're doing it. So a lot of my meetings now happen online. So I will share my screen online and they can see me writing in real time, and we'll kind of shape it and guide it together. And then obviously I'll do the editing and the kind of finishing off afterwards. But bid writers, you know, you really need to be able to facilitate those sorts of sessions. It's a really key skill, and you know, if we constantly complain about SMEs not giving us the input, eventually they're just going to stop talking to us. So I think we've got to find ways to, you know, work with them in much more productive ways. And then another thing that you might want to think about if you're wanting to create some clarity is what I call a golden thread document. So it's a document that perhaps the whole team can access. Often I just create them for myself, but I want to capture all the win themes. I want to understand client drivers, any kind of red flags or red lines that we might want to be identifying, key messages, you know, the kind of messaging things that are really important to me as a writer that I need to make sure that are homogenized across all of the responses. So yeah, I kind of keep a document a little bit like that. And it'll mirror the exec summary in a way. It won't be exactly the same because it'll be more granular, I think. And obviously the exec summary will be like more, uh, you know, better written. It'll be less in note form, but they'll be similar and there'll be alignment between those two.
Thank you. I definitely, I guess from a tech CEO point of view, the writing the exec summary first, it reminds me of a exercise we're doing these days to, you know, define our vision and point out our
Oh,
North
okay.
Star, and kind of, you know, I think, you know, you have to kind of make sure that everyone know where we're going and that we're going in the same direction and everyone is aligned. Otherwise, you know, I think that probably is what the same thing with a proposal, right? Or like, you know, if you need to tell the same story, and everyone needs to back it up in the
Yeah,
same way.
like I would say so. I mean, I think there'll be a lot of people who push back against what I've just said and be like, oh, I prefer to do it at the end. And you know, I work with people as recently as last year who didn't want to write it up front. But I genuinely think it helps. I think it helps set the kind of course of direction and sets the mindset and sets the focus. Yeah, I think it's important in many ways, but maybe some people
Oh,
just prefer working in chaos.
thank you, thank you. But yeah, Thank you for all that great advice. In terms of technology and tools, where do you see something like Flowcase or tools fit in this whole
So
process?
yeah, I I'm an AI evangelist and like a tools evangelist. There's no doubt about it. Like this week alone, I'm probably working on bids of an aggregate of around £1 billion. 6 months ago, a year ago, I would not have been able to have done that. So it is exponentially increasing my productivity, efficiency, and ability to get stuff done much more quickly. So I think tools and AI and all of this stuff can only help bid writers. I definitely don't sit in the camp where they are threatening our roles. I think if anything, they're making us maximally efficient, effective, and impactful. So I'm really excited about that. One of the big areas that and one of the big pain points that I think tools and AI, things like Flowcase can really help with is information management, that kind of bid library stuff, and being able to either source the right information or synthesize content from multiple different sources. It can do it much more quickly than I can. So I've done an activity today, like a really important task that would have typically taken me the best part of a week. I got it done before lunchtime. Incredible. Incredible. And then I can go back to my clients much more quickly. Um, I can provide really robust drafts much more quickly because I know it's passed the right information. I've had time to validate it properly and edit it. Um, yeah, amazing. Yeah, amazing. And it's put in my mind, like enabling me to do much more highly valuable mind activities that will massively increase the value of the bid that we put into clients. So yeah, I'm a huge, huge fan of technology.
You
It's nothing to be scared of, it's something to be fully embraced.
can focus more on the really where you can make a difference, I guess. And what's
Yeah,
most important. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Just being able to I've done two big pieces of work this week that would have firstly taken me ages, before I had access to certain tools. And then it's enabled me to actually, I think, elevate the output. It's done it maybe even better than I could have done. But obviously, it's needed me to tell it what to do. Like that's the really important part here. Like you do need to know how to prompt and how to manage the information coming out and how to check that it's correct.
You have thank you. And in terms of AI and what more have you kind of seen, and what kind of skills do you need to develop? And do you have more examples of
Yeah,
how uh,
yeah. So
can
I
be
think
used?
that I think that prompt development is going to be the next skill. Well, it's not even going to be like it needs to be. Like definitely learn how to write prompts. As I do more and more of this work, I'm understanding how much more detailed they need to be, um, and also the breadth of instructions you can give these tools as well to get a range of outcomes. Like, and I find that quite exciting. So that's really good. I find tools, AI, whatever, it is great for those early drafts. It does get you off the page. However, you need to structure it. You need to know what a well-structured response is going to look like because that it's not going to do that for you particularly. It's not going to do it by itself. So you do need to learn that and to lead it, I think. Um, I think that it's great for surfacing previous content So obviously I'm a consultant. I never know what's within an organization because it's always fairly new to me. That will help to surface content really, really quickly without particularly knowing what exists. Um, but then, everything needs to be validated and you need to corroborate what comes out and you need to edit it. So AI doesn't really understand about tone or nuance or, um, kind of messaging, win themes, those sorts of things. Like that is where the bid writer is going to become very, very strong.
Oh yeah, I recognize some of this as we've been building AI features in our tool that like I think you touched on it earlier that you need that good data and content in the first place. Otherwise,
Yeah.
AI can't necessarily do magic and can make up stuff, but you need that good data. But we're seeing also it can do amazing things in terms of like shortening down the text, for example. If you need like you have 500 words and it needs to be 200, it's super
It,
easy for it to do that.
yeah,
Uh,
it is great at that. But I think that that base content, so the content going in, that's like the next big opportunity, if you like, because I think rather than creating content on the hoof, which we have traditionally been doing for decades now, will be intentionally creating case studies, CVs, a boilerplate text, but it'll be really rich, it will be intentional, and it will be evidenced. And that is going to be the new growth area. We're going to swap round the focus of our work, as bid people from delivery. We'll still be delivering, obviously, but actually developing the case studies and the base information for the AI tools is going to be the growth area. I think that's where we're going to end up focusing.
Sort of like a role in terms of nurturing and maintaining that
Yeah,
content
nurturing's a
kind of
great word. Yeah, yeah,
um,
nurturing the bid library.
yeah. And two, I mean, we've seen other great things it can do, like translating from one language to another, or ingesting data as well in the first place from all kinds of sources. But we also learn that you do need to have some principles around it. It's like the way we sold it is like we show you what has changed and you can approve that. And I think that that's still going to be important to have some final human touch on things.
Yeah, agreed.
At least for now. I see we have a couple of questions in the chat. So people are asking if you do have any favorite tools or AI that you use, and other people are asking if there's specific tools that you use to structure bidding and force collaboration.
Yeah, so I'm kind of tech agnostic, if you like. I've been using a range of different tools this week based on preferences of my client. I do have like a highly like a paid version of Chat GPT, um, a couple of tiers up because it's got the security. I do love that. But I use chat for all all areas of my life, including asking it what I should have for my tea and all of that. So like that's how I use it. Like I've fully integrated it. There's loads and loads of options out there. They don't all do the same thing, and it's worth investigating.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you. I see in the polls in terms of how people are using AI. And this resonates a bit with the survey we did earlier as well. So it's like I can see people have a light use of AI, and some have a moderate use, but there's not that many people that actually have a heavy use just yet. So I think like our survey we talked about earlier is that people see this potential, but not everyone is actually doing it all the way
I, I
yet. It's like
I've become
there's yeah.
yeah, I've become a heavy user very quickly.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, well, thank you so much for this. In terms of, I think we're getting close on time here. So in terms of, any final thoughts, what do you want people to, ideally take home from this session today? Any, yeah.
I think a lot of us start from like a place of mess, don't we, when we're bidding? But I would say like you don't really need to be there if that isn't what you want. I think you can achieve clarity with the right structure, the right strategy, the right mindset, the right tools. So think about what's right for you and your business. I think that bid writers should be strategic leaders, not just typists, not just content creators, like really lead, content creation and within bids for your business. I think it's really important. And then finally, I don't think you need to choose between quality and efficiency. I think you should aim for both. We can have great outcomes very efficiently. Yeah, because I think bids deserve that.
Amazing. Thank you so much,
Oh, you're
Leonie,
welcome.
and thank you to everyone who attended. And yeah, amazing. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone, and we'll be back later with a new guest in our webinar series. So yeah, thank you and take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.